Well, after months of speculations, calculations, assessments and back-to-back diplomatic talks, Ukraine is under attack from land and sea. This is the biggest attack in Europe since the Cold War. Currently, several Ukrainian cities are under attack. It includes the capital Kyiv, Kharkiv, Kramatorsk, Mariupol, Odessa and many others. Explosions could be heard before dawn in the capital Kyiv, gunfire rattling out near the main airport as sirens blared across the city. According to the Ukraine presidency, 40 Ukrainian soldiers have so far been killed. 10 civilians have also been killed in the latest attacks. Black smoke was seen rising over the Ukrainian Defence Ministry intelligence headquarters in central Kyiv, although the building itself appears to be intact. Ukraine said that some of its military command centres have been hit by Russian missile strikes. Russia's defence ministry says it has neutralised Ukrainian military air bases and even its air defence systems. Ukraine claims it has downed 6 Russian planes. Meanwhile, Russian missiles rained down on the Ukrainian cities. Explosions could be heard in several parts of the country. On your screens are visuals from Mariupol, Kharkiv and Kyiv. It shows damaged vehicles, broken radar equipment and other equipment at Ukrainian military facilities. Fragments of damaged military equipment was also seen near playgrounds. There were long lines of traffic on a road leading out of the Ukrainian capital, hours after Russian troops launched their attack. In the nearby towns of Mangush and Berdyansk, people queued for cash and gasoline. Civilians from Mariupol were also seen packing bags, and at the Polish border, Ukrainians were seen fleeing the country.
At 5 o'clock, some colleague called me and say war started, and we with wife decide put all our things in the Lviv and come back here. Before that, we from Mariupol and we together moved to Lviv yesterday, and today we're here.
In Kyiv, people hurried down the streets, glued to their phones or listening to the breaking news on live streams. Several sought refuge in the city's metro stations and shelters.
We're going to Cherkasy to our family to be together now in this not very safe time in Ukraine, but we will have a victory, I believe.
Ukraine reported columns of troops pouring across the borders into the eastern Chernihiv, Kharkiv and Luhansk regions. It also reported Russians landing by sea at the port cities of Odessa and Mariupol in the south. Surveillance camera footage released by the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine showed various military and armoured vehicles crossing the Crimea-Ukraine checkpoint. Associated Press reporter Joe Federman brings us the latest from the Ukrainian capital.
There have been explosions across Ukraine overnight as Russia begins the long-anticipated attack, one that much of the world has been waiting for over the past few days. Here in Kiev, in the capital, we heard a number of explosions off in the distance overnight that sort of jolted the city awake, and more recently, air raid sirens indicating that some of these attacks are getting closer. For the time being, if you look behind me, it feels like life is normal. There's people milling about, walking around, going about their daily business, traffic is flowing, and so forth. But overnight, the government did declare a state of emergency, and we can imagine that in the coming hours, there will be more instructions ordering people to take safety precautions and probably to stay at home. For the time being, condemnations from around the world, from the US, from NATO, an appeal from the United Nations to Russia to please stop. But coming out of Moscow, for now, only defiance. President Putin vowing to continue and vowing that there will be severe consequences if the world tries to stop him.
Well, our correspondent Giles Gibson is joining us live from Moscow. Giles, the invasion now very clearly underway. What's the latest that you're hearing from the Kremlin there?
Well, Nick, we've had an update in the last few hours from Dmitry Peskov, who is President Putin's official spokesperson, describing some of the aims here of this Russian offensive. He said the aim is the demilitarization of Ukraine. He also talked about the neutralization of military potential inside the country, and he was asked about the timing here, how long this is going to go on for, days, weeks, and he simply said, pretty vaguely to be honest, that the duration of this operation is defined by its effectiveness and its objectives. We are still hearing from Russian military officials here in Moscow this phrase that was first used by President Putin in that dawn address that he gave to the Russian nation, a special military operation. That gives the impression, doesn't it, of a targeted operation, some sort of limited operation in those two breakaway regions in eastern Ukraine. Of course, according to the reports that we're getting out of the country, that we're getting from the Ukrainian government, you have explosions in Kiev, in the capital, as we were just hearing. You have the Ukrainian government claiming that columns of troops are crossing the borders at all sorts of different locations. So clearly, as far as Ukraine and the West are concerned, this is not a special military operation. This is a full-scale invasion.
And Giles, how about the mood in Moscow at the moment? How are people in the Russian capital viewing what they're seeing taking place in Ukraine?
Well, it was certainly a surreal atmosphere to be here in Moscow, listening to that speech from President Putin in the early hours of the morning, talking about the denazification of Ukraine, a propaganda claim that has been put out again and again over the course of the last few days by the Russian president, talking about that special military operation, sending troops into eastern Ukraine. And as we were just describing, it seems to be a much, much broader reference. And at the same time here in Moscow, it felt pretty normal. You had people